Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Today, we need to talk about Meta. They announced on Wednesday that they're going to lay off 11,000 employees, which represents almost 13% of the entire company. And when you look at Meta, and not just this year, because this year they're down 70% by itself, but when you start to look at the last year and a half, there have been a lot of things that should be concerning about the company and where the company is going, and we have receipts. We definitely have receipts at this point. So in this video, I want to describe what is going on at the company, what are my concerns. I am an investor currently, and kind of walk you through what I think needs to happen, but also what are the lessons that we can learn from this particular scenario as investors and as individuals. Now, if you have been watching and subscribing and liking and commenting for a while, which you should do right now, you will know that last year when they had the full report about their privacy issues and how they weren't taking care of people on the platform, and my own personal complaints about the platform, I said that Mark Zuckerberg should step down way back then. And I'm still on that boat because the financial management of the company is in trouble. And here's why. I understand that because interest rates are going up, because TikTok has become a major competitor, that people have other places to spend their money and their time on the app. That makes sense. If I'm someone who has to advertise, which I do as a business owner myself, and I have to choose whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, if I'm doing, Google ads, YouTube ads, I have plenty of options here. And the bigger that TikTok has gotten, that's the less revenue that Facebook has gotten. However, they decided, right? Facebook, Meta, has decided not only to change its name, but to spend over $9 billion on the metaverse, which is something that just has not proven to be profitable to this point so far. So when interest rates are going up, when your operating income, this is the money that you make from doing your day-to-day business, drops by 46%, you obviously have to make some changes. Okay? Imagine your paycheck, you go to work, that's your operating income, the money you get from doing that kind of stuff, and it drops by 46%. Obviously, some things are going to get cut. And unfortunately, it had to be the employees, because usually employees are the most expensive thing that you have to service and pay for as a company. However, the bigger point, the thing that bothers me the most, and this is why I always say, I've said this, I've been on record for this for a while, that share buybacks, that stock buybacks like this are not productive, because you can see here, and this is from an article from Barron's, and this was published on October 19th of this year, so it wasn't that long ago. Though the previous 4 quarters, they have spent $48 billion with the B on stock buybacks. That wasn't productive, was it? That didn't do anything for you. It didn't boost the stock price, right? This says they bought their shares at an average of $304 a share. I can guarantee you, without even looking at the stock price, it ain't nowhere near $300 a share. Okay, it's been 70% down in just 2022. So that is a problem in and of itself. But imagine, instead of going back and buying your own shares, which does not help your employees, because you still have to lay off 11,000 people, it didn't help you do anything in the metaverse. Instead of taking that money, like you could have had this money in cash, right? You could have had this money in investments. You could have had it in low-paying bonds and gotten interest back on that $48 billion with a B, right? And instead of doing that, you bought your own stock, which hadn't paid off, and you blew $9 billion on the metaverse. You could have just taken this $48 billion and spent that and kept your 11,000 employees and still been sitting on at least $35 billion with a B. So a lot of this is just mismanagement in my view. And it doesn't seem like the company has a strong enough direction. And it just seems like bad timing. Yes, I understand that going into a new space can be expensive, especially if it is new. This happens a lot in the drug space. Obviously, it's a different market, but companies come out all the time and spend tons of money on something. It takes a year, 2, 3, sometimes even more for that thing to really pay off. Tesla is a decent example where if you go back and look at their chart, I think they went public in 2010 or so. The first 7 years, the stock didn't do anything. They were spending billions and billions and billions of dollars. And then in 2017, the stock started to take off, and they weren't really profitable until 2020 to 2021. It was very recently that Tesla had turned a profit, and things have been better for them. I'm not saying that this year is the best for them, but things started to turn. But that took 7 to 11 years to pay off. Now, I can't tell you that the metaverse is going to take that exact same amount of time or if it will work at all. What I am here to tell you is we have seen a significant slowdown in the tech sector. I think that's relatively obvious, right? That's not necessarily scientific here. But I do want to illustrate this for a second and show you a chart of how widespread this has become. Now, we know that there were layoffs at Twitter. We've talked about that, and that has already become a messy situation. We can save that topic for a different video. But I do want to show you here, as it's starting to load up, is this chart. And what this is showing us is layoffs across the board between multiple companies. And you can start to see, once we start to get into Q2, Q3 of 2022, these layoffs really start to pick up across the board. So yes, we just mentioned Meta with 11,000, which I think, at least in my memory, is one of the biggest ones. You've got Salesforce. You'll notice that Netflix is on here as well. And the list continues, where it started to be a little bit of a trickle, and now it is starting to be much more of a trend. But, for lack of a better term, an explosion in this area as well. We had mentioned Snapchat, I think last week, or at least in the last 2 weeks. You can see that there. And again, Q1, 2, and 3 of 2022, with Q2 of 2022 being the most significant one here. Again, y'all can see that as well, Peloton there in Q1. So what does this mean for the entire stock market and the entire economy? Again, as interest rates continue to rise, this is going to be a problem. And this is going to continue to happen, unfortunately, because you don't want to see people lose their jobs because of inflation. It doesn't really seem fair. Obviously, as a consumer, this is one of the reasons why I say you want to have your own savings account, right? You want to have that 3 to 6 months by itself outside of your investments, because you don't want to have to sell. Imagine if you said that, my savings account is my stock account, right? Those two things don't mix. I've always said that does not make sense, because imagine, like myself, like I own shares of Facebook or Meta today, but imagine if I thought that my IRA was my savings. Imagine if I thought my Robinhood account was my savings, and it's down 70%. That's why you never want to mix the two. You always want to have those things separate. I always say that one of your best investing tools is your savings account, because it provides me the ability to say, hey, I'm going to let these investments do what they do, and if something were to happen to me in my job, at least I have this to hold off for X amount of time. And that's why you definitely want to have that as an individual and as an investor as well. I would expect these layoffs to continue, again, unfortunately, just across the tech sector, but particularly any company that is struggling, that is seeing its market value plummet, but also those that had to continuously borrow money too. Now, I don't really want to call this a silver lining per se, but you do know that as on Wednesday, the stock meaning Meta, did jump 6% because they're cutting 11,000 people. So when you start to see companies look more financially savvy by letting people go, you are going to see a little bit of bump there. I don't want to say that this is the point where Meta turns around, but two, I'm not even sure if it is, because if they are continuously going to spend more than $9 billion, which they are expected to do in 2023, that's still not going to help the company either. As long as TikTok is out there, that's still not going to help the company either. You can argue that if Twitter becomes the worst case scenario, that there could be some ad dollars of people who are leaving Twitter and going to go to Meta. That's a maybe. But that's not something I would really bet on for the company to do well, and it doesn't seem in the cards. Now, again, if you're looking 5-10 years from now, that's a huge question mark, because we know the tech space is completely different. I mean, remember, just think about how fast these things move in the tech space. At one point, we were talking about trillion-dollar companies with a T, something that never happened before. Then Apple did it, then Meta did it, Tesla did it, and then Amazon did it, and they were all trillion-dollar companies. First time we'd ever seen it, everything was amazing. And then just 2 years later, you got Apple that is holding on to that, Microsoft is probably holding on to that, depending on what time you're watching it, and then Meta completely off the top 10 most valuable stock list. They're completely out of that, like not even close to it. You've got Nvidia, a company that had historically done well, also experiencing layoffs and not doing well, which is shocking to me. Like, people are still using computers. What is going on there, right? And then you've got, there's another company that's escaping my mind right now that was also on there. Tesla is one that is obviously falling off and may continue to struggle as well, based on how Elon has to service the debt and the payments for Twitter. He just filed the other day, we can talk about this in a separate video, where he had to sell millions of shares to get that in cash and then pay off some of the debt and things for Twitter and some other purchases that he's looking to do, which is not helping Tesla's stock. The other company that was that escaped me was Amazon. Amazon is not doing well. Amazon has not done well for almost a year and a half now. If you go back to 2021, I said back then, like, hey, this stock is negative and it shouldn't be. Can this holiday season help? We'll see. But again, this is not a short-term trend for Amazon in this negative direction, and something's going to have to happen there. There are some people that think that this is a dip, and that, you know, next year, the year after that could be good. Can't really call it. We can do a breakdown to do a better deep dive there. But again, things have changed. Layoffs are occurring, and I can't necessarily say, because it's still a small sample set of all the companies that are out there, to say that this is a signal of the recession. But there is a shift, and you do want to be aware of that shift. And you are investing in any of these companies, you do want to be careful and want to make sure your portfolio is balanced and that you are looking at this with a very critical eye. Now, if I'm looking at this chart as well, as I'll put it up here, you'll notice that LinkedIn is a part of Microsoft. You can see that Microsoft is slowing down. It may not be as bad as a Meta, but again, also look at the relativity scale, if you will. If Meta has to lay off 13% of its staff and Microsoft is only laying off 2%, if any, or if Apple said, hey, we're just going to do a hiring freeze, we're not going to lay people off, that does tell you something as an investor, that some companies might be safer than others. Some companies could be run better and have better products and better services than others. Pay attention to that. Pay very close attention to that. I said very early this year that when you start to see companies that are continuously hiring, those are the ones you want to invest in, because when Elon said he was moving his plant from California to Texas, he was going to lay off people who didn't want to do remote work. And that's when Microsoft stepped up and said, look, we'll gladly take on those disgruntled employees. Now, that may not be the case, but they're just going to continue hiring. However, you do want to make those comparisons and say, look, if Snapchat and Twitter and Meta have to lay off 10% of their staff, 13% of their staff, 50% of their staff in the case of Twitter, which again is very messy, then who is hiring now? What companies and what industries are doing well, and which ones are just staying pat and saying, look, we don't have to do any layoffs because we are in a safe position. We are in a position that is still cash heavy. We are in a position that is still making money. Therefore, as an investor, I might want to shift my portfolio there. And I think those recurring themes are going to be something that's across the board. But pay attention to who is letting go people right now, and just keep an eye on it. Just keep an eye on it. What I would not do is just dive in to a lot of these, because there still can be a long way down for a lot of these, even though something is already down 70%. So be very careful of that. But that's the situation with Meta right now. It's not great. I don't know when things are going to improve. As an investor myself, I'm holding on to it until my process, right? Until December, the end of December, I'll go back and do a deep dive and decide whether or not I'm going to keep it or let it go. I'm leaning towards letting it go, so I can write it off for tax purposes or whatever at that point in time. But something has to change here for the company, and this is not the first time, right? Last year, we had a separate incident where there's a reason to let go of the company, or at least to raise some red flags about what is going on, even on the financial basis as well. All right, that is it for me today. We've got a lot of things to cover. I also, Insider members only last week or yesterday, depends on what order these videos come out. Sometimes I have to record them in advance because I'll be in Savannah this weekend, and I don't know what order is going to come in. In either case, our members are getting 2 videos, and the first video that I did for our members this week is how to make money on the downside when the stocks fall. When the stock market falls, but specifically when individual stocks fall. That is one that can make you a lot of money, especially in a time like this. So whether the market's up or down, you can still make money, and I show you exactly what that process is like. We're probably going to make that a series. So if you want to join that, then make sure that you hit the members only link below. Also, you guys know we covered 10 of what I think are some of the best stocks right now that also pay dividends. It's hard to find both in this environment. All of those were up a median of at least 30%. So you want to make sure you check that one out as well. All right, that is it for me. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.